and welcome back to Cuckoo for Books. I am Salva, and today we will be doing a book review on Alexandra Bracken's The Darkest Minds. I've been a huge fan of Alexandra Bracken ever since Brightly Woven. That was her debut novel that I feel like is grossly underrated, and I feel like more people should be talking about it. So a brief summary of The Darkest Minds. It's a dystopian book, but it's closer to our time period than it is, say, The Hunger Games or Divergent. There's this disease that affected all the kids in the United States of America. A lot of them died, and those who survived had all these powers and sort of X-Men-like abilities. The government takes these kids and puts them into concentration camps and assigns them a color based on what their powers are. If you're a fan of Michael Grant's Gone series and X-Men and the Young Elites, or there's a sort of zombie apocalypse vibe to the book. While I was reading it, there are no zombies, but it's abandoned towns. The economy has gone way down. People live in fear. People are trigger happy and just go shooting everything in sight. And there's this sense of desolation in the book. This is a dark book. If you're looking for an adventure, it's an adventure. It's action, it's got romance, but at its core the story is dark. Essentially, it's the government torturing and capturing and jailing kids. They don't decide, oh, we're gonna study these kids or maybe put them to good use. It's, no, every time I see a kid, I pull my gun out. And that's really scary. There's a part that just broke my heart right in the very beginning, right after Kate breaks Ruby out of Thurmond, and when Ruby sees the stars for the first time and it just touches her and she just cries. And can you imagine being locked up in a concentration camp for like 6 years of your life and then seeing the stars and seeing freedom for the first time? Oh, that part got to me. What makes The Darkest Mind stand out for me among other dystopian books, because there's a lot out there, is that it's so close to home. Alex Bracken sets her story in sort of a modern day USA. Like, there's pop culture references. This isn't like The Hunger Games where it's this almost fictional US that you can't even picture. You read The Darkest Minds and it's kids just like us who watch the same TV shows, who read the same books, who listen to the same music, suddenly thrown into this nightmare just because of who they are. And that makes the book more terrifying and more dark than any other dystopian I've come to read. So our story revolves around this girl named Ruby who is able to escape from a concentration camp, and she goes on the run. While she's on the run, she runs into 3 guys who are also Psi. So what they call in the books, kids who have these supernatural powers are called Psi. So she runs into Liam, Chubbs, and Zoo. And I love the chemistry between those 4 kids. Within the span of a few pages, they sort of build this family dynamic. I really love the parts where they insist that Zoo's like the youngest kid, insists that she has to learn multiplication, and she asks the 2 older guys to check on it, and they're sort of like her 2 dads, and it's just so cute. I don't think I've loved a gang of kids that much. And there's just so many funny moments between the 4 of them. I love the banter, especially between Chubbs and Liam. There's a part where Ruby just starts crying. She thought that they were gonna get rid of her, and then they were like, no, we're talking about getting rid of the car. What are you talking about? And then she starts crying because she's so overwhelmed and touched that they want her in their little group. And then there's a sentence there that nothing is more worthless when a girl cries than 2 guys. And then Chubbs just goes, there. It's okay. What I love especially about Alex Bracken's writing, especially in The Darkest Minds, is that the characters talk like people. The dialogue between the characters are such a high point in the novel, and they talk like normal kids. They don't talk overly dramatic and, oh my, what a pickle we've found ourselves in. That's such a bonus in a story, especially one that isn't contemporary, because it helps you relate to the characters more if they talk like you and they make the same pop culture references as you, and they talk like normal human beings instead of people in a movie. My favorite character in the book was definitely Chubbs, because he is me. I am Chubbs. Do you ever think about what you would be like in the Hunger Games? Like, I know I'd be the first to die, or in the zombie apocalypse, I'd be the first to, you know, like, they never put into account the unathletic kids who don't want to walk and don't want to run, aren't that good with sports. And I love that Chubbs was that kind of character. They're on the run from people trying to kill him, and he's like, wait, I have to choose which books go with me. He's full of sass and he's smart. So Ruby lies about being a green because she's trying to hide that she's an orange, because being an orange is scary. So she's like, yeah, I'm a green, I have a photographic memory. And then she accidentally calls the car that they saw green. And then Chubbs is like, That car was brown. That's some photographic memory you have. He's the only one who catches her in the lie. What I love about the romantic interest in the book, aka Liam Michael Stewart, he is not mysterious, he's not brooding. It's so refreshing to have this guy who's just sweet and he knows it, and he's not trying to be cool. He wants to take care of the girl, so he does. He's not trying to be brooding or sassy or cool, and he's just so open and honest, and he has a southern accent, and oh, I can just imagine that. He's a breath of fresh air in a YA world where all the romantic interests are dark-haired and pale and brooding. The one thing I wasn't such a big fan of this novel was its pacing. The action scenes are like on point, but when nothing's happening, there is literally nothing happening. I know it's gonna be made into a movie, or it's been optioned for a movie, and I feel like it's gonna be so easy to fit it in. It's almost 500 pages. There's a lot that they can either speed up or cut out completely. Also, I've talked about this a million times, one of my least favorite tropes in YA is let's go camping and on an adventure for an indefinite period of time because we kind of know where we're going, but we don't know where we're going. So let's just tough it out. Now for the spoilery parts of my review. If you haven't read the book, I suggest you click X on your tab and run along and read the book. I absolutely love the way Chubb stood up to Clancy at the end of the novel, because here's this proper guy who, you know, knows how to stitch and read books and is always clean and pressed. And at the end, to defend his two friends, he just starts wailing on this guy who he has every right to be afraid of. You just love Chubb so much in that moment. It is never gonna not bother me that Ruby erased herself from her parents' memory. That is the darkest thing I have ever read about. Can you imagine you're just like kissing your parents goodnight thinking, good night, and then the next morning they stare at you like you're a stranger and they call the police to come and take you away. That is the most painful, oh, especially the part where she keeps shaking her parents and being like, I'm your daughter, can't you remember? I'm your daughter, you're my parents, and they don't remember it. That is the most depressing thing I've ever read about. I really loved right before she erases herself from Liam's memory, where Liam's like, let me tell you, even if this disease never happened, if the PSFs never happened, if the camps never happened, we still would have met each other. And then he proceeds to tell her this story about how he would have taken a trip to Virginia Beach and playing volleyball, and he would have met this girl reading a book, and even in that other world she would have met him and they would have fallen in love. And oh, look, do you hear that? That's the sound of my frozen heart melting. Final act of Ruby erasing herself from Liam's memory. Oh, it was touching, and at the same time it wasn't sappy. It was the perfect act of love. It wasn't her dying for him or, you know, hurting herself for him or doing any of that, I'll die for you, blah, 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 blah. It was her taking on his pain and being like, I'm willing to erase myself from your memory if it means that you get to be happy. It was a form of self-sacrifice that was just the right amount of love and touchingness and sweetness and beautifulness. It was a good way to end a novel. In the end, I thought this was a really good book. It's the kind of book that grows on me. Like, this is my third time reading it, and I feel like it's just now when all the characters and the plot and the world soaks in to you. That is it for my video for today. If you guys liked it, give it a thumbs up. You can leave a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, both at Cuckoo for Books, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!